Good morning, this is Shelby Law with the Great Basin Prescribed Fire and Smoke Briefing for Monday, April 29th, 2024. Looking first at our precip from the past 7 days, we did have a pretty good spring storm move through much of the Great Basin over the weekend, bringing some pretty high rain totals to some areas of especially western Utah, northern and western Nevada, eastern Idaho, and western Wyoming. This pocket here in northwest Utah with the yellows is upward of 1.5 to 2 inches of rain. So that's a pretty significant spring event. Some higher elevation snow we'll look at in just a minute, but mostly rain across the lower elevations here. The 30-day percent of normal is shown here on the right. Definitely having an impact some of the recent precipitation as well as some previous storms that moved through. But we do have a few dry pockets, especially portions of eastern and southern Utah. Here the central Idaho mountains, far northwest Nevada. So we do have some dry pockets out there and some pockets that have seen some good precip. All right, looking here at the snow totals for the past 72 hours. Again, a pretty good spring storm moved through the Great Basin with low elevation rain and high elevation snow. These butter yellows here were 6 to 8 inches, and some areas certainly saw higher values than that, up to maybe a foot or so in some of these darker reds. A few little pockets there in southern Utah, western Wyoming, and east central Idaho mountains. This did help our snowpack, slowing down the snowmelt and even adding onto it, or adding onto the snowpack a bit over Utah and Nevada, and other parts of Idaho and Wyoming. So still looking pretty good for snowpack as we head into the 1st of May here, the end of April. Some drier areas further north over the central Idaho mountains, which is kind of been that dry spot through most of the winter. We do also have some drying over southeast Utah to point out as well. Okay, so let's look at the forecast. For today, there still is some lingering moisture across portions of the north and northern Utah. Could still see some showers here and there, but for the most part drying from the west. Ventilation rates are very high today. Transport winds are pretty breezy out there over Idaho, especially northern Nevada as well. Winds kind of coming out of the west. There's a trough moving into the Pacific Northwest, Northern Rockies, bringing some winds to the area. Mixing heights are also very high region-wide. Temperatures today are pretty warm across the south, or warming anyway, compared to this weekend. So highs near 70, a little bit cooler further north, highs in the 50s to the 40s over the higher elevations. And the probability of precip here on the right, showing that precip coming mainly to the central Idaho mountains, higher elevations of southern Idaho, western Wyoming, and then possibly northern Utah as well. On Tuesday here, again, we can see that trough over the Northern Rockies, Pacific Northwest here, keeping things cool and keeping some moisture in place over the north with dry westerly flow further south. Ventilation rates still looking really good. Winds die down just a bit tomorrow over Utah and Nevada, but still remaining breezy in eastern Idaho and western Wyoming with really high mixing heights. Temperatures drop a bit tomorrow, a little bit further south, with highs in the 60s over the central Great Basin and still remaining in the 50s across the north as that trough remains in place there. Still warm across the far south. Probability of precip decreasing a bit tomorrow over southern Idaho and northern Utah, but we still could see some showers, or expect to see showers in the higher elevations of central Idaho. Okay, on Wednesday, that trough will dig just a little bit deeper into the Great Basin, especially the eastern half of the Great Basin, bringing some cooler temperatures on Wednesday, and continued showers to the north. Maybe we'll see a shower or two in Utah as well. Ventilation rates remaining high. If we look at the winds, we'll see winds pick up on the leeward side of the Wasatch Range here with gustier winds, gusts up to 35 miles an hour or so on the eastern side of the Wasatch Range and across the south as well, as that low kind of drops into northern Utah, and mixing heights still stay high. So we can see temperatures dropping on Wednesday into the 50s for most of the Great Basin, still staying a little bit warmer, or quite a bit warmer across the far southern tip of the basin, but a cool day overall. Lows are going to be down into the 30s on Wednesday night. And then some precip over the central Idaho mountains, southern Idaho, western Wyoming, and a few showers in northern Utah on Wednesday. Okay, clearing index is going to be very good for Utah for the next 3 days. Precip totals for the next 3 days are shown here. The bulk of the precip is coming to the central Idaho mountains and western Wyoming. Hopefully those western Idaho mountains can get some precip that they missed out on over the weekend, and then a little bit of precip coming to northern Utah as well, mainly either today or on Wednesday. Generally cool northwesterly flow will remain in place across the Great Basin on Thursday with some moisture over the north, leading to continued showers up there. Drier across the south. Ventilation rate's still pretty good, but decreasing a bit over far western Nevada. Kind of more of the same on Friday as a low begins to develop off the Pacific Northwest coast. We could see some of those showers continuing across Idaho on Friday. Ventilation rate's still looking pretty good. On Saturday, that low drops south along the northern California coast. This will actually increase our temperatures across much of the Great Basin under southwesterly flow ahead of that low. Wind speeds picking up. Some moisture still lingering across Idaho, but generally dry on Saturday over Utah and Nevada. On Sunday, that low begins to move a little bit further southward and eastward. By late in the day Sunday, we could see some showers across far western Nevada, and then some showers lingering across Idaho. Ventilation rates still looking pretty good over Utah and Nevada. As we head into the first part of next week, this low will move through the Great Basin, bringing showers to much of the area. We'll keep an eye on that as the forecast progresses. Precip totals for days 4 and 5 is shown here. This is mostly just Thursday and Friday when we expect to see generally sunny skies and dry conditions across the Great Basin ahead of that low coming in later in the weekend. There will be some lingering showers over central Idaho and western Wyoming, however, Thursday and Friday. The extended forecast for May 6th through the 12th is calling for below normal temperatures along the California coast. Some warmer temperatures expected in Utah and eastern Idaho, western Wyoming, however. And then some above normal chance for precip continuing over Idaho and western Nevada, but a drier pattern remaining in place over southeast Utah, where we have seen some dryness previous to now. And that concludes today's briefing. Please check back on Wednesday for the latest updates.